vaccines, never keep any remaining vaccine, but always ensure that it is destroyed. Mature ducks are vaccinated against duck plague and duck hepatitis using live vaccines. The Nobilis duck plague vaccine can be injected subcutaneously in the neck, as is done here with these French free-range ducks, but it can also be injected intramuscularly into the leg. The Nobilis duck hepatitis vaccine is generally injected into the breast muscle. The needle must be inserted pointing towards the head to prevent vaccine liquid from entering the abdominal cavity. Finally, we would like to pay special attention to the Nobilis CAV vaccine against chicken anemia virus. This is the only live vaccine that can be mixed with inactivated vaccines, thus eliminating one step in the vaccination process. The freeze-dried CAV vaccine must be dissolved in the sterile buffered saline solution, which is supplied in a special 2 milliliter syringe. Next, the dissolved vaccine is added to the inactivated vaccine. The vaccine mixture must be shaken thoroughly to obtain a good blend. One of the latest vaccination techniques is in ovo vaccination, which is mainly performed at large hatcheries. With this technique, 18-day-old chicken embryos are vaccinated inside the egg, 3 days prior to hatching. The vaccine is injected into the amniotic fluid. The in ovo technique is used mainly for Marek and Gumboro vaccination. Vaccination takes place during transfer of the eggs from the setter to the hatcher. Using this technique, some 20,000 to 60,000 eggs can be vaccinated per hour, depending on the type of setter tray used. Unfertilized eggs can be automatically removed to save vaccine fluid and possible infections of the chicks during hatching. Of course, the fully automated in ovo vaccination technique is labor-saving and facilitates hatchery management. When mass vaccination is an option, spray administration of the vaccine is the preferred method. This is particularly true of vaccination against diseases such as infectious bronchitis, Newcastle disease, and turkey rhinotracheitis. The main reason for this preference is that with live vaccines we can achieve strong, highly effective local immunity due to their effect on the mucous membranes. It is in fact by spraying that we can best reach the bird's mucous membranes, in the eyes, the nostrils, the beak, and if necessary, deep into the respiratory tract. There are 4 different spray techniques for day-old chickens and older birds. We will discuss each of these separately. The automatic spray vaccination of day-old chickens at the hatchery. The vaccination of day-old chickens with a knapsack sprayer on the farm. The vaccination of older birds using knapsack sprayers producing relatively coarse-sized droplets, the so-called coarse spray, with droplets larger than 100 microns. And vaccination using aerosol equipment, which produces an extremely fine mist of droplets smaller than 20 microns. It is droplet size, specifically, that demands extra accuracy and experience in spraying a vaccine if the inoculation is to be sufficiently effective to achieve good immunity without causing serious vaccination reactions. The respiratory tract consists of the nostrils, the larynx, the trachea with the primary bronchi, the lungs, and the secondary and tertiary bronchi leading into the air sacs. The depth the vaccine penetrates into the respiratory tract depends on the size of the droplets. The depth of penetration partly determines the vaccine's effectiveness. When the droplets are extremely small, as in the case of the aerosol spray, they penetrate very deeply into the respiratory system. When priming day-old chickens with a respiratory type Newcastle disease vaccine, this could cause too strong a vaccination reaction. In the case of booster vaccinations, we often actually want the vaccine to penetrate deeply into the respiratory tract in order to create better immunity. Keep in mind that evaporation of the vaccine spray can also play a role in the development of vaccination reactions. Evaporation causes a coarse spray, i.e. a spray with coarse droplets, to become an excessively fine spray. That can be seen here, in the fine clouds of mist developing at excessively high pressure. A low pressure delivers the correct coarse spray. There are various techniques for controlling the form and density of the spray. In emergency situations, day-old chicks can be vaccinated with a coarse spray using an ordinary hand sprayer. The spray nozzle of this hand sprayer is quite easy to adjust, but in fact it can never really be adjusted accurately enough. Spray clean water horizontally into the air in front of a dark background with backlighting, as demonstrated here. This provides an accurate view of the size of the droplets. Adjust the spray nozzle accordingly to generate a coarse droplet. The droplet size must not be too coarse, but neither should it be as fine as the very fine mist of the aerosol. The drawback of this kind of sprayer is that the pressure does not remain constant while spraying. Agricultural or knapsack sprayers can be adjusted more accurately. Here again, backlighting provides a good view. With this type of sprayer, the pressure can be accurately controlled using a pressure gauge or regulator. Low pressure produces the correct coarse droplets. Here we see that under a high pressure, the sprayer produces a mist consisting of small droplets. Aerosol sprayers, such as the Atomist and the Turbofogger, must be adjusted to create the finest cloud of mist possible. A mist hangs in the air. You do not see falling droplets. Special water-sensitive indicator paper can be used to adjust the spray nozzles of knapsack sprayers and aerosol sprayers. When you spray onto these yellow strips of paper, the water droplets change the color of the paper to blue. This shows the exact droplet size being produced. Spraying on a dry grey concrete floor gives almost the same effect, though obviously less accurately. Fully automated spray vaccination is a vaccination technique used almost exclusively at hatcheries. Tens of thousands of day-old chickens can be vaccinated per hour with this technique. The most common day-old vaccinations are those with the live Nobilis vaccines against infectious bronchitis, Newcastle disease and turkey rhinotracheitis, and with the coccidiosis vaccine Nobilis Cox ATM. The amount of water in which the vaccine must be dissolved depends on the type of spray equipment. The droplet size depends on the choice of spray nozzle and the pressure setting, as well as on the vaccine. For example, when priming day-old chickens with ND Clone 30, we want the vaccine to only reach the upper respiratory tract. This is achieved with a coarse spray. Deeper penetration of the vaccine with a fine spray results in an excessive vaccination reaction. If the first day vaccination did not take place at the hatchery, it must be performed immediately on arrival at the farm. A knapsack sprayer fitted with the correct nozzle and a pressure regulator is most suitable for this. Before spraying, line up the boxes of chickens in rows against each other. Do not place the boxes under or too close to a heat source. The use of simple hand sprayers is not recommended because they cannot be adjusted with great enough accuracy and the coarseness of their spray is inconsistent due to loss of pressure. For the first day spray vaccination, use the following procedure. For 1,000 birds, dissolve the vaccine in 250 milliliters of water at 15 to 20 degrees Celsius. The water must be very high quality, preferably distilled or demineralized. To rapidly dissolve the freeze-dried vaccine pellet, the vials should be opened under water. This must of course be done with very clean hands, but without disinfectant or soap residues. Rinse the vials at least 3 times with the vaccine water. Fill the sprayer with the solution. It must be very clean and obviously entirely free of disinfectant and soap. The sprayer should be brought up to a pressure which will give a good coarse spray, definitely not too fine. While spraying, hold the spray nozzle approximately 40 centimeters above the birds. Spray rapidly enough to dampen the chicks, but not to wet them. After vaccination, the chicks must be left to dry in the boxes. This takes at least 20 to 30 minutes. In general, portable agricultural spray equipment, also called knapsack sprayers, are used for spray vaccination of older birds. They dispense a coarse spray. There are different types of sprayers, such as those with double spray nozzles that can deliver the vaccine efficiently and accurately in a shorter time. These sprayers must be dedicated strictly to vaccination only at the farm, in order to prevent cross-contamination from infections, toxins or disinfectants. A new development is a mobile spray cart with 6 or more spray nozzles used in battery houses. Spray vaccinations of older birds are primarily used for vaccinating against respiratory pathogens such as infectious bronchitis and its variants, Newcastle disease and turkey rhinotracheitis. For spraying, use 500 to 1,000 milliliters of very high-quality water per 1,000 birds. Here again, use of distilled or demineralized water is preferred. It is recommended that the ventilation system be turned off during and until shortly after vaccination. In order to ensure that all the birds in a chicken house are vaccinated, the birds must be gently herded together. One way to achieve this is by creating a central path in full light, after which the lights should be dimmed as much as possible before spraying. Furthermore, the house temperature must be lowered 1 to 2 degrees Celsius. In order to keep the birds calm while filming these shots, we used special blue lighting. The spray nozzle must be held about 40 centimeters above the birds, swirling it gently. We strongly recommend wearing a face mask while spraying. In some countries, this is in fact mandatory. In open-sided houses, vaccination should take place in the evening or around dawn, since it is then cool in the building and the birds are at rest. It goes without saying that it is pointless to spray in open-sided houses if these cannot be closed off with curtains and made windproof. After a vaccination is completed, the spray equipment must be properly cleaned, inside and outside, with hot water. Obviously, no disinfectant can be used for this. Aerosol equipment such as the Atomist and the Turbofogger is primarily used for vaccination against Mycoplasma gallisepticum and re-vaccination of older birds against Newcastle disease. As we said in the introduction, since this technique distributes a very fine mist, it creates optimal immunity. The person administering the vaccine must have the necessary experience with the aerosol technique. Furthermore, the birds to be treated must be completely healthy. The aerosol application, or fine spray, is the appropriate technique for vaccinating with the live Mycoplasma MG685 vaccine and for booster vaccinations with the ND live vaccine, because these vaccines must penetrate deeply into the respiratory tract. In the case of aerosol application, the vaccine for 1,000 birds is dissolved in 400 milliliters of preferably demineralized or distilled water. When spray vaccinating, the ventilation and heating system must be turned off and should only be turned back on 15 to 30 minutes after vaccination. The spray nozzle must be adjusted to obtain as fine a mist as possible. Naturally, anyone conducting an aerosol vaccination should wear protective gear for the eyes, nose and mouth. The so-called spray cart is a multifunctional and labor-saving spray device used in battery cages to vaccinate multiple tiers at once. With the triple spray heads, one can select a nozzle to generate a coarse spray, a fine spray, or a closed nozzle. This is required if one or more tiers does not need to be sprayed. Here again, during vaccination, protective gear for the eyes, nose and mouth should be worn. The vaccine Nobilis Cox ATM, a vaccine against the parasitic infection coccidiosis, is administered to day-old chickens as a spray. In most cases, this vaccination will be performed at the hatchery with automatic spray equipment. In contrast to the other spray vaccinations, this vaccination can also be carried out with a hand sprayer on arrival of the chickens at the farm, because the size of droplets is not of major importance in this case. The spray route of application is clearly preferable to drinking water vaccination, which must otherwise occur when the chicks are 4 or 5 days old. Follow the directions in the package insert for diluting the vaccine. The ratio must be 1 to 10, i.e. add 1 part vaccine to 9 parts water. Set the spray nozzle for a coarse spray. Shake the sprayer back and forth gently from time to time during application to prevent sedimentation of the oocysts in the vaccine water and to ensure even distribution of oocysts. The drinking water method can be used for such vaccinations as IB, ND, Gumboro, AE, Salmonella and coccidiosis. It is important to realize that although it is the least labor-intensive vaccination method, drinking water vaccination is by no means a simple technique. Moreover, it is not always the most effective, for instance for the administration of respiratory vaccines. This method requires significant precautionary measures for the vaccination to be effective and reliable. First of all, the quality of the drinking water must be regularly assessed and checked. Initially, this can be done by means of organoleptic control, that is, by the poultry farmer himself smelling and tasting it. In addition, the pH and chloride content must be measured. If the pH of the water is too high or too low, this may negatively impact the efficacy of the vaccine antigen. Excess chloride content or contamination with heavy metals may even inactivate the vaccine antigen. Moreover, drinking water should be tested regularly for bacterial contamination. If it is impossible for the poultry farmer to test the quality of the water himself, this will have to be done by an expert laboratory. In addition to the drinking water quality issue, the drinking water installation used may also be a determining factor in selecting a vaccination technique. For instance, some systems are impossible or difficult to drain, which is required to clean the system prior to vaccination and to induce thirst in the chickens. These are essential preconditions for reliable vaccination. Thirsting the animals is necessary to ensure that they will rapidly drink sufficient vaccine water. The amount of time required to thirst the chickens depends on factors such as the type of animal, age and weather conditions. On average, chickens need to be thirsted for a period of 2 to 4 hours. Effective vaccination requires that all animals drink sufficient vaccine water within 2 to 2.5 hours. Water uptake may be encouraged by vaccinating immediately following feeding. In that case, the animals will drink the vaccine water more quickly because they are usually more thirsty after feeding.